Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian. Today is a bit of a part two because I really wasn't even done with Numbers 14, which is surprising. It's not the most popular part of the Bible. Most people get kind of bogged down reading through Numbers, but this one chapter really jumped out at me. We left off last week with God deciding these people are not even going to enter the promised land. I'm going to pick up right after that. So we're at verse 26. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "How long must I put up with this wicked community and its complaints about me? Yes, I have heard the complaints the Israelites are making against me. Now tell them this: As surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very things I heard you say. You will all drop dead in this wilderness. Because you complained against me, every one of you who is 20 years old or older and was included in the registration will die." This is actually exactly what they had said back at the beginning of the chapter. They said, "We would have been better off to die in the wilderness than for God to bring us here to die." And so God is saying, you know what? Fine, wish granted. Go ahead and die in the wilderness. Which we're inclined to think that's pretty harsh, but frankly, it's completely fair. It's like we said last week, these people have done nothing but complain. God has proven himself and taken good care of them. And all they do is gripe and complain about it, and they don't think that he can actually care for them. He's given them so many chances. At a bare minimum, God called out 10 times that they tested him, and he kept forgiving them and giving them another chance and giving them another chance. But there is a point when he's just done with it. They have rejected and refused to obey him so many times that now they're going to face the consequences for it. Verse 34 says, "Because your men explored the land for 40 days, you must wander in the wilderness for 40 years, a year for each day, suffering the consequences of your sins. Then you will discover what it's like to have me for an enemy." That verse is crazy because they've already been going through the wilderness and there's been a lot of stuff that was rough. There were times that they thought they were going to die of thirst or starvation. Now, granted, God has always taken care of them, and that's a big part of the problem that we're dealing with here. God has been caring for them the whole way through. And now he says, you're going to go back into that wilderness, but I'm going to be against you this time. You did it with me caring for you every single step of the way, and all you did was fight and complain. Now you're going to get to find out what it's like without me on your side. And just like I said last week, this is still how it works. Don't allow yourself to think that, oh, God was like that in the Old Testament, but it's a lot different now with Jesus. Let's go to the New Testament and look at Romans 1, starting at verse 21. Yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. This is God's take on the modern world. This is what we still do to this day. Look around. Most of society thinks that we're too smart to need the Bible, to need God. We've somehow evolved beyond this. Like we're not the same people still doing the same thing. And frankly, I think the way we got here is just a few sentences later in verse 28. Since they thought it foolish to acknowledge God, he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never be done. There is a point when God just lets us go because, frankly, this is God's mercy and his love. When we, by our actions, make it very clear that we don't want anything to do with God, we don't want to submit to his leadership, we don't want to follow what he says, we don't want to obey him, then he doesn't force us. He's not going to push his thumb on us and just grind us into the ground and make us do what he says. But when we don't want him, he lets us go. And frankly, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to us. That's what has happened to the planet, is we didn't want to submit to him. We didn't want to do it his way. We wanted to do it our way. And that's why we're here. That's how we end up suffering the consequences for our own choices, for our own actions. This isn't God being cruel and punishing us. This is just what happens when you live this way, when you try to go apart from him. He knows how the world really works. And if we would listen to him, it could go a lot better. But when we don't, we face much harder times. The worst part of it, though, is it's not always just ourselves that have to pay that price. Let's go back to Numbers 14 and look at the worst part of this whole thing. It's at verse 31. It's still God speaking, and he says, "You said your children would be carried off as plunder. Well, I will bring them safely into the land, and they will enjoy what you have despised. But as for you, you will drop dead in this wilderness, and your children will be like shepherds wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. In this way, they will pay for your faithlessness until the last of you lies dead in the wilderness." This generation of Israel is literally about to spend the rest of their lives, every single day of their lives, watching their children have to pay the price for their own stubbornness and rebellion, which is how that next generation knows to actually trust God and listen to him and follow him into the promised land and conquer it and take over the whole thing. They had to learn the hard way, but they do learn. So often that's the same with us. Don't get it twisted. God was merciful with these guys over and over and over. And He's merciful with us too. He gives us so many chances to keep trying again. But there is a point where He will say, look, if that's what you want, go ahead. And He lets us go our own way. And it's the worst thing that could happen to us. The best life you can ever have is to listen to Him, to let Him guide you a step at a time in His direction. He knows what He's doing, He knows the best possible path for you, and He will carry you to a future you could never have imagined if you will trust Him and follow Him and let Him lead you.